The various.
Let's go. It's your host, Nick Perrette, and you're listening to Commercial Roofing Radio. This is the hottest radio station in the roofing world. We are your favorite place to hang out, learn, and shoot the shit. So sit back in your truck's chair, relax, and enjoy the show. I am pumped up. We have one of my best friends in the roofing industry joining us today. Now, this guy is an old school, second generation roofing storm chaser, right? Turned tech founder, and he's really innovating the industry with what he's doing. Alan Mick started in the roofing space at 19 years old as a salesperson, and he was good at it, right? So he was able to grow his career. He became the number one salesperson at the largest residential roofing company in the nation as his career, grew and he continued to develop. He became a manager and an executive at 3 different companies who were all doing 9 figures in revenue. So pretty impressive stuff. Yeah, as his entrepreneurial spirit really kicked in and took over, he started his own company. They became the largest roofing company in New Mexico in the first year. So Alan reached, 8 figures in revenue within the first 5 years. So he was able to really grow that quickly. He tried to walk away from the roofing industry, move back to Texas to start a family. But of course, here he is back serving the roofing industry with Just Share Media. So his vision is really to pull the roofing industry out of the digital stone age with high-end video production. Well, here he is, my dude, Alan Mick. What's up, my friend?
What's going on, buddy? Thanks for having me on the show, man. I constantly looking left and right. I'm like, who are you talking about? You talking about me? That guy? Yeah.
You're impressive, man. You've done some
intro, man.
You've done some unbelievable stuff. But before we dive into that, man, how we living, my friend? What's going on? You recently just had a brand new daughter. How's the family doing?
Yeah. Family's doing great. I got my son who's 2.5 years old, and he's as crazy and energetic as they get. And then my daughter is about to be 3 months old, and I love every bit of it. She's kind of in and out of letting us sleep, so I'm not loving that, but I can work through it. So, and it's all worth it at the end. So, man, life couldn't be better right now, really.
So you're growing us started with not a lot of sleep, but the reason why I mentioned family right off the bat too is how big has family been with you getting into the roofing space, you growing your career. I know that's been a big part for you.
Yeah, family's everything for me. It's funny, people always ask me, it's like, what's your story and stuff like that, and it's a hard question for me to answer because we ain't got enough time for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
yeah.
Some people find the roofing industry through a friend or a family member or a series of events, most of the time unfortunate. With me, I was born into it. And so I had no choice. So when I tell my story about how I found the roofing industry, it's not just my story. That's my family's story. That's my father's story. That's my uncle's story. And it's like, without all that background information, mine doesn't make the most sense. So it was really blessed to be in the industry from my family. They brought me into it, and I couldn't be happier. I did bucket at one point, tried to go to college, tried to go to a different route, but realized that it's in my blood, can't do anything else. I love it. It's what I was born for.
How long you last in college?
1.5 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a good time.
You had fun. You had fun. You probably had a few drinks or something, right? So you probably had a good time. Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
So
had a lot of fun, man. I was still selling roofs in the summers too, so that was always fun, which just meant I had too much money to know what to do with in college. So you shouldn't have that much money, that much fun all at the same time. It was just stupid.
Which is rare, right? I mean, nobody in college has any money.
Yeah, Yeah, usually broke, right? So it wasn't right. So, but I enjoyed it and I lived it, and now I learn from it, right? You move on and you go on to bigger things. If it's like everything I've done in life, it's always prepared me for the next thing. So if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't realize, boy, I don't want to do this stuff that everybody else is doing. I've got this dream job and this dream career that I'm actually really good at. What am I doing? I'm just wasting time here.
So obviously you had your father, you had your uncle who were able to kind of bring you into this space. You're making all this money, selling roofs at 19 years old. Great spot to be in. You were able to find that success pretty quickly. I think mentorship is such a big component of that. Yeah. For me, I had a few people in my life who were able to really give me the perspective, the understanding of business, and it helped me throughout certain situations. And I couldn't be where I am now without them. How were they able to kind of mentor you into this new world at such a young age?
Yeah, man, that's a big one. Just because there's such influential people. People talk about you're the sum of the 4 or 5 people around you. That's not fair to everybody else for me because of the 4 or 5 people I grew up around. And when we talk about men in business and things like that, it's my father, I could talk about my father all day, but you ask just about anybody that knows him in the roofing industry that's been around him, and they'll tell you he's the best roofing salesman there ever was. He's many times sold 8 figures himself, and just for years and years just been amazing at it, right? And then my uncles, same thing, right? I had one uncle who was the founder of one of the largest residential roofing company and went on to do bigger and better things and grow companies, scale them, and this and that. And I had another uncle that did the same thing, right? Huge business he started, and whether it's my uncles or my father, many people bring them up in the same breath and say that they're the godfathers of the roofing industry. I mean, these are people, I look around today and there's all these masterminds and people are paying $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month just to be around these people. And that's smart. There's nothing wrong with that. But I grew up around those guys, right? And I didn't take it for granted, which is crazy to say. I remember I enjoyed it. I enjoyed business at such a young age. I was 16, 17, sitting in the room with my father and my uncles talking about scaling their roofing businesses, right? And now at the time, they've got 20 locations scattered across the country, and they're doing well over 9 figures. So, when I was able to go and I say 19 is when I started because that's when I started taking it seriously. Right. So when I started, I was able to have them guiding me, and it's just invaluable. Right. I mean, the knowledge that they gave me and everything like that. That's why, if you ever hear me talk about myself, I hate doing it. But if I do, it's not about me. It's about what I've learned from watching these great people around me.
No, I completely agree with that. And you've been very lucky, right, to have those key people in your life that were able to teach you those lessons and help you get to where you are today. So I completely agree, and I'm very grateful for the people that helped do the same thing for me. Yep. Today we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, right, of commercial roofing. So we'll talk about some good stuff, we'll talk about some bad stuff, and we'll talk about some ugly stuff, right? So I want to start with some good stuff. Let's have some fun, good vibes for the good stuff. One thing I always wanted to is talk about first is what it's done for you. And so one question I had is, when did you start looking at roofing as, hey, this is learning how to build a business, rather than, hey, I'm a contractor, or this is just, roofing, or we're just selling roofs. And, you started looking at, hey, I want to learn how to build a business. How did you get to that mindset?
Man, it was really always in me, the building the business, right? It was, how do I scale this into a business? And I don't know, maybe it was trying to fix the, hey, I don't really want to go knock 100 doors today. How do I do this in a way to scale it in and of myself? We as salespeople, roofing salespeople, are typically 1099 contractors in the industry, and we're our own business. So how do we scale that in a way that makes that a business? So even as a salesperson, I was thinking outside the box in that regard. You know, and a lot of that happened from mistakes, right? So you talk about commercial roofing and mistakes. One of the first jobs I ever sold was a $650,000 commercial job, right? And boy, I made a lot of mistakes on that one. And that's really what got me thinking that
What
way.
happened?
Like,
what happened on that project? If we're gonna dive into a mistake right away, we might as well get into the ugly right away. What happened here? Because you hear plenty of horror stories on mistakes costing a lot of money on a commercial projects.
Yeah. Well, you know, this one didn't cost me money. It's just I look back and it's everything in life. It's like I wish I knew what I knew now, right?
Yeah.
So I was smart in the fact that I got this lead that was a big lead. It was an apartment complex and another apartment complex adjacent to it, right? It was a property management company, but they owned it. So, and it was in Kansas City, Missouri. It was like in the middle of the winter. And I could have tried to do it myself, but I was 19 years old. And I look young now, so when I was 19, I looked really young, right? So I'm like, there's no chance. So I bring it into the office, and I'm like, I need help closing this. So I think I did a lot of stuff the right way by bringing in other people to help me close the job, to help me sell the job. Now, with any education, that cost me money, a lot of money, right? I had to split it like 2-3 different ways, but I learned a lot on how to sell the job. So those are things I did right. But then where it went wrong was they entrusted me to manage the job. It's like, you know, I'm sitting here getting these big paychecks from these other residential jobs that I'm selling. I'm doing very well. I didn't know anything about project management at the time, you know, and I remember like distinctly carrying around this 40-foot ladder with like the head maintenance guy, and we're inspecting roofs just to make sure they're doing it the right way. Because it was a big mansard project, right? It was mansard shingles over top of old wood shakes. So we had to remove the shingles, remove the wood shakes, redeck it, and then go back onto the shingles. It's not an easy job to do, especially 2-3 stories up, multifamily. I think it was like 62 buildings. Well, it was the reason why it was so low in price is it was a bid job. So it was already slim margins in and of itself. So then I'm the one managing the job, and I'm the one inspecting it. And I remember going around with the property management guy, the head guy for all of their buildings. And this company owned like 20-some apartment complexes all over Kansas City. And I didn't even know how to carry a 40-foot ladder. Like it was, I was sitting there like about to drop this ladder on a vehicle in the parking garage. And I remember it going through my head. I'm like, man, please don't drop this ladder. You're stronger than this. What
you
the
got
going
this.
On? I was throwing up a lot of weight at the time. And it's just, I just didn't know how to do it, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's ever taught me. My dad, amazing salesperson, but he never taught me how to carry a ladder, and neither did my uncles. I mean, they're great at building roofing businesses. They don't carry ladders, right?
No.
So it's just funny. Like, I just didn't know. And then I get up there, and we're inspecting to see how many nails are in these shingles, and there's not 6 nails in this mansard roof. There should be like 8 nails, and there's like 3 to 4 in a couple of these we check. And I'm like, well, I didn't know I was supposed to check that, right? So it's like, the valuable lesson that I learned, and we can go into further stories about it. I'll probably bring it up because there's a couple things in regards to that project that I learned so much on. But one of the valuable lessons that relates to building a business and how that was geared with me from the start is bringing in help from the beginning. I wish I would have brought in help in the middle of it as well. You know, selling sometimes is the easiest part. At least came that way for me, but project management was tougher. And that's more important because it's not selling. Anybody can sell it and make these promises. It's following through.
Yeah.
I wish I had brought somebody in that knew more than I did and to teach me, to guide me on how to project manage, right? I would have happily given up all of the money that I did make to really learn it the easy way and not so much the hard way by making those mistakes. You know?
So maybe, you know, be willing to invest in resources, other people that have been there, done that in these projects in the beginning. So rather than worrying about a big profit margin in them, because if you mess this up, you're not going to have any profit margin.
Yeah, I think with that one, it was less profit, more they entrusted me to project manage it, and I should have spoke up, right?
You should have spoke
up, right? Be honest about what you're not confident about. I was not confident that I could project manage that job, and I should have been honest and said, guys, I might need some help watching this job. I just started. Can't even carry a 40-foot ladder. How am I going to get up there to inspect the job after the crew's gone every day, right? So I think it comes to be honest with yourself and what you can do and can't do. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Speak up, right? I mean, for some reason, people really don't like asking for help. Like they don't want to put somebody off, right? But if you look at the flip side, people like helping people. So, you know, they enjoy being assistants and feeling like they're valued, right? So if you have a connection with somebody or whatever it might be, right, and you feel good in your organization, you know, ask for help. Speak up. People will help you out if you ask for it. You know,
want to, right? People wanted to be part of that job. I wish somebody could have learned something about the sales side of it. Like everybody gets helped if you're just honest and you just bring people in. And you know, like I said, we're the sum of the people around us. Why didn't I bring somebody in to help me build? I could have helped them. Hey, this is how I sold it. This is how I got the job. You know, and then we all would have learned. We all would have grown better, grown faster, right?
So, all right. So you did a lot of storm restoration work, right? Storm chasing, if you will, right?
Yep.
So when you think about those storms, you know, and you think about those events, and you think about going into those places, and you think about the memories you had, the feelings you had, how you grew, all this kind of stuff. You know, give me some blurts, give me some feelings, some words that you take away from those environments when you went in there throughout your career.
And you know, the first thing that pops in my mind was being a little kid, right? Being like 10, 12 years old. I don't really know my age, but I know my dad would take me with him when he would go set the storm, is what we would call it, right? He would fly in to wherever it was, and this is early 90s, mid-90s, right? So we'd fly in to wherever the storm was or drive in and get there next day. It's always a race, right? It's always urgency. Like, we got to get to the storm. He'd get there and meet with like 3 local roofing companies and figure out which one works the best and make a deal with one, sometimes make a deal with all 3 of them for a joint venture ship to go in and, hey, we're going to partner with this local company. We're bringing in 150 Texas roofers and they're the best of the best and da-da-da-da. And so from there, that was cool, being in those meetings, like watching those deals being made. Like, yeah, we're going to take over the name of your company for the next 90 days at the very least, if not a year, and we're going to blow you up. We're going to do every roof in town. But then going from there, what was always fun for me was going over to Kinko's, right? So we would sit in Kinko's for like 2-3 hours, and we'd get tape, I'd get our scissors, like everything, and like magazines and all kinds of stuff. And I remember going through magazines, I felt like I was like in class cutting stuff out and making logos. We would, because their logos were crap. It was typically a town that wasn't a big business, and this roofing company, like the small mom and pop shop from the 70s, and they hadn't redone their logo. So we were doing all that in Kinko's. Like, I don't know if you ever remember the Kinko's back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
But they had everything you needed. Talk about a brand builder. It was everything right there at the Kinko's. So we'd have the contracts, we'd have the flyers, we'd have business cards. We'd have it all ready because we did have a team of 150 sales reps following us. Right? They were going to be there within 2 days, and they needed all of this stuff to sell, and we had to get there because everybody else was getting there, right? All the other storm chasers, which back then you knew them all by name, right? There wasn't a ton of them, but we knew they were coming, and there were some heavy hitters, so we had to get all this ready. That brings back a lot of memories in that. That was fun, right? Growing up, it was, when I was a salesperson, it was like show up broke, right, at the beginning of the year, the first one of the year, because it's always around March. One of the first general managers I ever had always told me, he's like, Alan, come March 1st, you're working a storm, right? I don't care if it's last year's storm or next year's storm, it's somewhere, right? And show up broke, show up hungry. I took that too literal to start with. I would literally go
spend all his money,
go for broke, go spend all my money. I mean, I was living in a camper at times. I'd drag that camper to my grandparents' house or to my uncle's house, live on some land, and just enjoy myself, right? And so I was
that's epic.
Broke and hungry, ready to work. and just hit it hard as hell for those first 90 days. Storming was a way of life, man. It was always travel. I loved it. I loved going to new places, meeting new people, meeting those new homeowners, associating different people, different businesses, different areas, watching it grow, recruiting people to those storms. It was just cool. It was fun. It was learning so much. But now that, and I know we're skipping way ahead, but now that Just Share Media and I'm creating this company, it's so cool to see that all business principles are universal, and especially in starting a business and scaling a business. What people don't understand is these storm chasers going in, creating this brand from day one that, yes, it existed, but it didn't really exist, right? We had to redo everything, and you're growing this company. You're bringing in the sales reps or the employees. You're bringing in the management. You're coming up with a game plan of how to take your go-to-market strategy of that storm, right? You're scoping everything out, and then now you're operating it, right? You're turning around and you're operating this business that was a storm, and you're going from dead zero, because you didn't ever sell a job there before, to 10, 20, sometimes 40 million. There were storms where we went out and did 40 million in a storm that we were never there before. So that's scaling. That's taking a small business to a very large business in a very short amount of time. And that part of it was so much fun to watch, right? I enjoyed that. And then when I started doing it, it was even more fun. I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do, right? Not just the roofing, but the taking the business, starting something new and taking it to where it is. That was cool.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I saw your post today, and I think about tech companies, and the word that that always comes to mind is hypergrowth. But maybe that's not hypergrowth. Maybe going into a storm from 0 to 20, 30, 40 million, maybe that's actual hypergrowth, because that is absolutely insane if you really think about it. So you would do a joint venture with a brand that's a local company. But you basically say, hey, like their logo would suck, so we update the brand. So you basically you were just doing an agreement for the name that was local, basically.
Basically, I'd be lying to you if I looked in depth at those agreements back then, because I was young. As I got older, especially when I started my own company, our agreements were completely different. I did the same thing, right? But our agreements were a true joint ventureship. I don't know what they look like to begin with. I know the deal was typically made on like dollars per square, right? So it's like how many squares that you were going to do. It was like $3 a square back then.
I'm just curious though. I'm just curious though, because you're buying the brand, but you thought it was important, even though it's a local brand, to reinvent the look and feel of it. You felt that was going to help you guys close more deals.
So a lot of it was about the yellow books, right? The yellow pages. Like, you have to be in yellow pages. You have to be on there. Just being local, right? Especially back before social media. I mean, this was before social media, before cell phones, before any of that. So you couldn't really look a company up the way that you do today, right? So how do you look a company up? They have to be local, local, right? And the roofing industry is still big on that, right? You got to be local. So that's the first objection. If we're knocking a door and I got a Texas accent, which luckily I didn't, but all of our guys did. So how do we get past that? You have to be a local company. No, look us up. We've been in business over 15 years, right? This is the business I work for. Now, different people were disingenuous about it. Some people would lie and say, I'm from here, but most of our guys they couldn't lie. I mean, their voice said it, their actions said it. So they're like, look, we partnered with this local company because you had a storm that hit. So we're going to try to help them facilitate the damage and fix it. They called in the experts. It's like flying in the best doctor in the world when you have a broken arm. And if you have the ability to do it, you do it. Right? So you want the best. So we were the best. We were going in to take this local company to be able to actually maximize their efforts and take advantage of the storm situation. And what people don't understand either is that most of these small mom and pop shops, they've never seen a hailstorm. They didn't know what to do. They didn't even know that hail did that, or that you could get the roofs paid for from hail. Most roofers, most retail roofers that have been around for years, they don't even understand. So they would have just sat there while these other companies came in and took over their territory, took over their areas. Now, one of my uncles did a interview with Dimitri, and it was basically him talking about how seeing these business owners go that high and the extreme lows the year after we left, because they made more money than they've ever seen and they didn't know what to do with it and they couldn't manage the business. So there was a lot of bad that went with it from them, but there's also been good stories. Like, I don't think he focused enough on the good, because there was a lot of business owners that they learned it. They were like, wow, that's how they got brought into it. Like, they own this business. We came in and we scaled their business, and they become a huge nationwide brand because of the knowledge that we brought in.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just locked down their local territory, and that was them from now on, because they just went and did 70% of the roofs in their town or their city. And now it's not hard. Now you just follow through. You run the warranties, you do this, you do that, you do some advertising, and you just keep growing with it.
So it's a benefit. It's a benefit to that local company, right? I mean, they probably learn a lot. You come in, you update their brand for them, you teach them, I'm sure, a lot of stuff in terms of running a business, at an operational standpoint.
Yeah.
So they're probably getting a ton of resources even after you guys are gone.
Yeah, think about a company like a Crest or CMR or something like that that's huge, right? It probably has a sales force of 50 or 150 guys, right? And my town gets hit, and one of them calls me up and says, hey, I want to come there and grow your company. I want to work underneath your name. That's like a skip ahead to success button, right? That's a cheat code. But you mean to tell me you're going to put 50 guys under my name and grow my brand and grow everything and pay me for it? You're going to turn me into a household name overnight, right? Yeah. The problem is most of these people weren't great business people to understand what to do when they left. And if they would have, boy, right? And some of them did. Some of them didn't. So, yeah, it's a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage. Right.
That is really wild, though, if you think about it, somebody living in like some random local, small town, who maybe they've owned the business for 50 years. Maybe they've done like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, you know what I mean? And, his wife, his wife's doing the books. It's just him and his wife and maybe 3 people, salespeople or something, and then all of a sudden they hit, 20 million, 30 million. That's just gotta be such a wild thing.
Make you angry. I would be so mad, right? So I was working in Connecticut, and it was this big storm that killed, it knocked out Cheshire, Connecticut, Watertown, Connecticut, and all these areas in Connecticut. And I think I was sales manager at the time, one of my early storms, and I would go over to this town, Prosper, right? And right in the middle of town, there was this giant roofing company. I mean, it had the box trucks. It was its own freestanding building. Logos were made. One of the best roofing brands I'd ever seen, right? I was an expert at building a roofing brand by this time, right? So, I see these guys, but the trucks always sat there. That trucks always sat there. I pulled $1.5 million out of this small town, Prosper, Connecticut. You look it up. There's probably 10,000 people that live there, right? And I was knocking out roofs, siding, gutters. Oh man, it was one of the best storms I ever worked. In this town, this guy in this town just sat there, and it killed me. It hurt me for him. I'm a very empathetic person. I'm like, man, that guy's got to see me doing all these roofs, and what's up? I want to go in there. I want to be like, let me teach you. Let me help you. Don't let this happen again, please. Right? But I did things the right way. I did it from a good local company. I knew I was putting on the best roofs, the best siding, the best gutters that the guy ever had.
Yeah.
The property owners would have never got their roofs, siding, gutters paid for if it wasn't for me, because they would never file the claim. And so then they would have had to pay for all this stuff out of pocket. They would have been screwed over, right? And we honored the warranties. We did things the right way. People look at the storm chasing as it's so wrong, but it's not wrong. What's wrong is these homeowners not being notified that their properties are damaged. I think that's the biggest issue. Like, we were going to these places to tell everybody your roof is damaged, and you probably don't know it. That was our biggest thing. So
why is that? Why there's a knock?
Yeah,
what's the knock, do you think, to the storm chasing brand, I guess, if you will, or culture? What like, why do people look down on it sometimes, or say, oh, this is a bad thing to do?
Haters. You know, you got haters, man. I mean, you got these people that aren't as successful, or you know, they don't want to travel. I mean, there's a lot of tough things because of it, right? You lose a lot. Like, you miss out on a lot in life when you're storm chasing. You just do. So a lot of people won't do it because of that. So they try to do their local brands, be storm catchers, and maybe a storm doesn't hit. So it's not as easy for them. So these people don't do as well, and they see these storm chasers go out and go follow this hailstorm and stuff like that and do really well, and they're really successful. So they're going to hate on it. They're going to talk bad about it, right? Do people do it the wrong way? Absolutely. You know, there are a lot of bad characters. A lot of bad characters in every aspect of life, in every avenue of life, in every business, right? So, but there's a lot of good ones, man. You know, I remember my dad, I did an interview and I introduced myself as a storm chaser. I think it was our Start Build Grow show. He's like, don't call yourself a storm chaser. People don't like that. I said, no, you got to be fully transparent. That's who we were. That's
I respect
exactly
that.
what it was. That's who everybody was. I mean, if you look around at the roofing industry today, at least the public face of the roofing industry, they can all go back to these storm chasers, right? Like I said, we all knew each other back then. Like, you can pick any roofing company owner, and at least most of them, and they're going to be able to trace their lineage back to one of these guys, right? So it is who it is today. A lot of them were bad actors. I could tell you about any of them, and I'd tell you my true honest opinion about them, but this is not that kind of show. I don't even bring up their names because they're controversial, and a lot of them were bad people. They really were. Or let me rephrase that. There's no true bad people. It's
maybe
people
greedy,
that do bad things,
right? Right.
You know, they made bad choices.
Yeah.
Probably came from a good place, right? But they made bad choices. They did things the wrong way. That's the biggest thing that my takeaway in life from seeing these people that were so close to me, whether my uncles or my family members or friends of my dad's or friends of my uncles that had success the wrong way, right? It's like, man, you could have done it the right way. Maybe you wouldn't have been as profitable then or there or later. Maybe it would have been a little bit more challenging. Probably wouldn't have, because there's added benefits by doing things the right way. But boy, it's so easy. Just do it the right way. There's plenty of money to go around. That's the roofing industry. So I really learned that, like, what I wanted to do when I was that person is kind of, you know, follow them in the building the business, the scaling, the growth, all of the things that they were doing right, but do everything I can to do it the right way, right? So that was a big part of my life, was looking back, like, don't make those same mistakes, you know?
And when it comes to the hate towards the storm chasing world, you know, no matter which way you look at it, you're going in and you're restoring properties that need to be restored for people who own these properties, right? So you're restoring the environment. So that's one thing. That's why I cannot stand people who are in storm markets that do a lot of stuff with, like, storm or aggressive type branding. You know what I mean? I want it to be more of a subtle brand that says, like, restoration and recovery. You know, here to help, not scary. Hey, this just traumatized you. Here is it in our brand. You know what I mean? So that's one thing to think about at a brand standpoint, for sure. But also, when you're looking at people hating, you're sacrificing a lot to make the money that you're making. You're pretty much getting deployed to, you know, a natural disaster or something like that, right? And you're going to live there now, and there's going to be issues that you're going to run into because of what happened. So it's not going to be like a pleasant living situation or anything like that. You're missing your family, all that kind of stuff. That's why you mentioned storm catchers and you mentioned storm chasers. So storm catcher example for, you know, people who out there who might have, you know, got that. I'm sure you did, but is, hey, Denver market, you're a storm catcher, right? If you're only working local, basically, because you're doing insurance work, and if the storm doesn't hit, it is what it is. Now you live in Dallas, so it's a little bit of a cheat code here, but let's just say that it's hit or miss, you know, maybe you get one 2 out of 3 years or whatever it might be. You have a family now. If you, let's say you're going to start a roofing business again, would you start a storm catcher that only works local, or would you do a storm chaser that goes to the storm?
So if I had to start a roofing business right now, that's what I had to do. Man, and I live in Texas, and I'm still going to live in. See, the traveling is what always did it for me. I would not start a business in DFW. I just wouldn't do it. Right?
You wouldn't do it.
Too many objections. Too many of my friends, family own them. Probably what I would do is I would do commercial roofing only, right? And I would go back to New Mexico, right? Because it's a ripe, opportune market. Now, the reason why storm chasing truly existed, because, yeah, we got plenty of storms in DFW, but you start going the farther north you go, the better it pays. Well, we brought our crews with us, so the labor costs the same, right? We're buying a big national in bulk discount, right? So our material costs the same. So we just tacked on tons of profit margins when we went farther north, right? There's still profit to be made in the South, don't get me wrong, but the profit margins were huge the farther north you went and the farther away you went. So that was a big part of it. But to me, commercial roofing, a state like New Mexico, and I really like New Mexico because of the Adobe-style homes, right? Because they're flat roofs. Getting back in commercial again, just because, man, just the grind of residential. It's just such a volume sales. Like, to me, it's just, yeah, you get to this point where you have hundreds of sales reps, and it's like you're herding cats. You're a high school vice principal. It's just headache sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You have to grow so far to be able to do what you want to do, or what I would want to do in life. You know, I saw, and I was very successful with my own roofing company, and I saw the writing on the wall, and I was like, man, it's going to take a lot of time to be able to remove myself from this business. I've got to restructure it. One, I've got to quit. You know, I've got to come up with my own brand identity, kind of all that stuff, which we weren't doing at the time. So I had to create my own brand identity. I had to build a brand. And then I had to scale it to a point that pulled me out of it, right? To me, that was like a 9-figure company. I needed to get to 9 figures. I was already at 8 figures. 8 figures was easy, but 9 figures, like, that's hard. That takes so much. And owning your business, especially a roofing business, it's 7 days a week, like sun up, sun down, and
yeah, that's intense.
You don't get that time back with your children. That's, to me, it's just, now I still give that same amount of effort to just share media, but it's a different type of time, man. I remember, like, not working on a Saturday. It was weird to me. I actually almost got in an argument with my partner, my co-founder, Ryan. I was like, it's Saturday. What are you doing? Like, why are we not working? But it's just, it was ingrained in me. Like, you worked every Saturday. You worked every Sunday. It's what happened. And now I'm on the phone. I'm doing business stuff. And so is Ryan. Hell, he's editing more videos on Saturdays than any other day of the week. But it's just not the same. Waking up, going, knocking hundreds of doors, selling the roofs, running appointments. You know, so back to the question: if I had to start over, if you held me down and said, "Alan, start a roofing company today," it would be a commercial roofing company. I would hire Just Share Media. I would hire Nick Perret to get me leads.
I hired Just Share Media, so you guys make unbelievable videos. So I wanted to mention that anyways. That's a good segue. Is yes, you know, we went through a rebrand. I wanted to make sure I captured the moment, you know, and really told that story. Looked really just professional, right? Making a statement. So we hired Alan and his team. Ryan came out here, filmed them for us. Turned out unbelievable, worth every penny. Now they have, you know, obviously that they have the stock set up where they're taking like crazy high-end videos and putting it into a library for you, right? A subscription model, and you can just brand that for your company. So it is a no-brainer, for real. It definitely is. So make sure you guys are checking them out. Alan, if they want to get connected with you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, first of all, I meant that as a joke. I wanted to keep going.
Well, it's good.
I do enough of these where we talk about our business. I enjoy the story time. But, watch this. If you like me, then you'll probably realize that. And if you hear my story, after roofing, I could have done anything. I could have gone anywhere. But I created a company that would be the first company that I'd call if I were to start that roofing company. And that's why I said it, right? Because it would be the first thing that I did was to build a brand, to utilize videos. The next thing would be to get leads, and that's where I'd call Nick Barrett to get leads, right? Because I would go after commercial properties and make the big money, right?
Amen to that.
So yeah, just go to my website, go to my Facebook. You can't. I'm branded everywhere, so it's easy to find me. It's easy to get a hold of me.
And whenever
I want to get back to talking.
Well, so what I wanted to say is, when we're saying this, obviously, we'd love to work with anybody out there, but at the same time, no matter what the resources are, make sure that you're taking advantage. If there's things that look attractive that you're interested in, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, it's okay. But the best people always, try new things, are open to innovation and everything like that. So any resources out there, make sure that if you're trying to hit these goals, whatever they might be, if it's any kind of growth, you got to try new things, right? Because you have to have a plan. To get there. Now I want to talk about the ugly, right? So we're going into the ugly side of commercial roofing. I mean, in roofing in general, what are some things you think could change the industry, and how can we kind of go about that as a unit?
Well, so commercial, right? Let's get back to commercial a little bit. So one thing we talk about roofing, because we did so much residential, it's funny when I was at that business, when I was 19 working for that company, we sold multifamily, right? It's funny. It's like I ask a lot of commercial roofers, people that say, oh, I'm a commercial roofer. It's like, well, what is commercial roofing? What do you define that as, right? You look up a commercial property, it's any property that generates profit. So technically a home, if somebody works out of their home, is a commercial property, right? Well, then you look zoning and this and that, duplexes, multifamily. But what I'm getting to is I was told you are not allowed to sell flat roofing, right? And stay away from metal if you can, right? Because we were residential roofing, right? Or at least we were comp shingles, right? So again, multifamily, apartment complexes, HOAs, things like that. So getting into the ugly was, when I did start my own roofing business, the first storm that I went to was New Mexico. Well, New Mexico is all flat roofs, right? And boy, you gotta learn fast, right?
Yeah.
Because I was starting this company and I didn't know anything about flat roofing. I was told not to sell it, stay the hell away from it, because of scarcity, because of fear, right? My uncle at the time, it wasn't just fear; it's just turn and burn, focus on what you're doing. Which I agree with him, and it was a lot of the liability though, right? Because you think of a traditional flat roof, that's a business with a lot of money underneath that roof. If you screw that roof up, you could ruin your entire company. You could go under. I don't care if you're doing 100 million, 200 million, 300 million a year. It only takes a few of those big commercial properties to go under. So we were always told to stay away from them. So I never knew anything about them. At the same time, I said earlier, know what you don't know, but don't be afraid to learn it, right? Know what you don't know, but don't be afraid to learn it. Don't let anybody tell you, hey, don't do that. Even though there's big money there, don't do that, because we're all afraid of it. You've got to be a master at this. Let me tell you something. The people that say I'm a master or I'm a guru or I'm the greatest at this, there's nothing in life that I have found that's truly that mesmerizingly challenging. Unless you're a rocket scientist trying to figure out how to get to Mars, it's not that hard if you just put your time and your effort into learning it. Maybe we get into like a childish, like, you can do anything you want to do, Nick. But, you in this day and age, you really can. You can learn anything that you want to learn. So don't let anybody stop you. Now, I wish I would know that back then, because I didn't really take too much effort into learning it, right? If you would have asked me when I did my first flat roofing job, do I know it well enough to sell it and build it? I would have absolutely 110%. But now it's like, what the hell was I doing, right? So, one of the uglies that we did was all of these roofs. It was really the first few. It wasn't a bunch. I exaggerate a lot, right? I'm a salesperson. I like to exaggerate. It's my story. Let me tell it. But, so 5, 10, 3, it doesn't matter, right? We were doing these residential roofs, and all the homes out there, at least the majority of the homes, are Adobe-style homes. They're flat roofs, right? So it's mod bit. And TPO is the way to go, right? TPO is the best. I'm a big believer in everything TPO, right? So we were going there. We were selling TPO. Big hailstorm wiped out this town, and, we found hail damage. We get the insurance company to pay for it. And boy, did they pay for it. They paid a tremendous amount. If you guys don't know, if you're watching this and you're in commercial, high five, right? You're killing it. The profit margins are amazing. If you're not in commercial, get into commercial because the profit margins are absolutely amazing. And stop listening to people tell you can't, because you can. It's not that hard,
Preach.
right? Just try. Just try. That's what we did, right? With the first 2 or 3 jobs, maybe 5, maybe 10, right? I compare
Who's
it
counting?
to
Who's counting?
who's counting, right? I compare it to what's that cereal, Snap, Crackle, and Pop. You know what I'm talking about? The cereal brand, Rice Krispie treats, right? Or Rice Krispies, right? So we were going right over top of these mod bits and mechanically fastening these TPOs right over top of the mod bits. Well, not fleece back. You can do that if it's a fleece back, but we were not ordering the fleece back. And we had the best crews. We had advisors. We had the suppliers telling us what we needed to do, what we didn't need to do. So we were confident going into it. But these first jobs, we get to walking on them and doing our inspection. I've got my fish hook. I'm checking the welds. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm just listening to myself walk on it, and it's everything. And I realized that, oh man, we should have put a board down. We should have used fleece back. We got to re-roof these. So it was just our first few builds, and we re-roofed them completely, right? So talk about ugly, having to re-roof your first 3 to 5 flat roofs that you ever do. That's pretty bad. Luckily, it's flat roofing. When I say there's enough profit in it, on those jobs, we re-roofed the jobs. So we did the roof twice and we still made money. That's
wow.
Guys, don't be afraid, right? Don't be scared because that's
absurd.
Flat roofing, right? Yeah,
that is wild.
Yeah. It's crazy,
man.
About, right?
Man,
and then,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and then commercial went from there, right? So I was doing multifamily commercial, HOA commercial, all throughout my career until then. I mean, sold some big jobs, some really big jobs. Some of that $650,000 job, that was pretty nice for one of my first jobs ever sold. I mean, picking up $150,000 checks at 19 years old was pretty cool, right? It's oh man, that's $150,000 check. I can go to Mexico with this, have some good times, right? So
shows the potential though. But hold on, real quick for people out there though, who are thinking about doing something like this, whether they're in roofing already, and doing residential or whatever it might be. Think about that check size. You could really change, your lifestyle. But then remember, too, if you do start to make that kind of money, don't be like that all-star athlete who gets a big payday and all of a sudden is a bankrupt, right? So be strategic with it. You can have your fun. You want to reward yourself, but be very, very strategic with that money. Learn how to handle that kind of money. Because if you're able to learn how to handle that kind of money, you're going to be able to grow off of that, right? And financially, you're going to be in a great place.
Yeah. If I would have known what I know today, right? That's how much money I was wasting back then. But that's the roofing industry, right? It comes fast, it goes fast. We always thought, well, I'm just going to make it again. I'm going to make it again year after year. But yeah, we won't get into that. That's the financial lesson we'll talk about on a different financial roofing radio or something. Right?
Well, how do you know you can buy a boat? How much money do you have to be making so you can buy a boat and a second car, all that kind of stuff? How much, do you have any advice there? When do you know it's time to be able to do that?
Do you want the good advice or the bad advice?
I want the good advice.
How bad do you want it?
Yeah.
Really the best advice is how bad do you want it? If you don't buy it now, if you want it that bad right now and you can afford it in your eyes, which means you're going to go get approved for the loan or the financing or whatever, you got the cash in the bank, then buy it. make that mistake. Buy it. You're never going to learn. Like, I wouldn't be as financially smart as I am today if I hadn't made the financial failures back then, right? Or mistakes or overexpenditures, whatever it is. Because I would never know. I wouldn't know, hey, man, if only I could have that boat. Like, I'd hate to be a 35-year-old with a couple kids and go out and buy a boat when I couldn't afford it, right? So, but because I spent money back then, I know when I can and can't afford things, right? So my answer is, depends on how bad you want it, right? If you really want it that bad, go out and get it, man. Go out and enjoy yourself, enjoy your life. And again, it's where you're at in life. If you've got other responsibilities and you're going to miss some bills, then don't buy the damn thing, right? Money is always smarter making money for you, right? Money is a tool. The best answer that I could give to that is use your money to make more money, right? That's all it is, a tool. Yes, it buys nice, cool, fancy things. Yes, boats are fun. Wave runners are fun. Cars, vacations. I was a vacation spender. I would buy big vacations. That's where I spend a lot of my money. But all that stuff's cool, but what's cooler is making more money with that, and then you can spend that kind of big money and not look back and be like, man, I overspent on that. I shouldn't have done that, right? Use your money to make more money, right? OPM is a big thing I live by too. It's other people's money, right? A lot of people say pay cash for everything. Man, if I'm in a business that's growing and I've got a growth factor, right, why not use somebody else's money at a small percentage to buy it? I'm going to make more down the road. That little bit of money at that percentage is going to make me more money because you look at profit margins. If I know my roofing business makes, let's go on the low end, 7%, right, and I can borrow money at 3%, then I'm going to borrow all that money, dump that into my roofing company, and it's an ATM. It's going to spit out 7%. It costs me 3%. It's just a math equation, right? So, don't be afraid to spend money. Don't be afraid to, right?
You ever have issues not getting paid on a job?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. People, I get this. I see people in interviews, they're like, everybody's always paid me. Like, you're either lying or you haven't sold enough, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
You're either lying or you haven't sold enough, right? Because it happens, man. It's rare, especially for me, because I pay my bills. I'm a big believer in paying my bills.
Agreed.
People have life things happen, right? I'm such a person. If anybody ever asks me what's my best trait, it's my empathy. I'm so empathetic with people. I can understand if it comes between paying for your roof and putting food in your kid's mouth, put food in your kid's mouth. By all means, I make enough. Don't worry about it, right? So, that's what it gets to for me, because those situations happen. Those situations do happen. Now, if there's an influx of it, if you're having a lot of people not pay you for their roofs, whether it's commercial or residential, you need to look inward, because you tend to sell people like yourself, right? You're going to draw in people like yourself. I have seen that time and time again as a leader, whether it's a general manager, owner, sales manager. When I take over people's files, if somebody's an asshole, all of their clients end up being assholes, right? If somebody's a Karen, all their clients end up being Karens. If somebody's greedy, all their clients are greedy. I'm like, man, how do they sell everybody like themselves? It happens, man. So yeah, people don't pay their bills, especially in commercial, man. Geez, some of the easiest commercial to sell is HOAs or individual business owners, right? If it's one guy, it's like, Nick, you own this building. I don't have a whole lot. I don't have a board to sell to. I just got to sell Nick. That's easy, right? So, but also, if you've gotten like that and you're by yourself and you own this by yourself, it's your money. It's like, man, a lot of times my experience with those individual business owners, it's tough to get that last check out of them, right?
Right.
You got $800,000 on this building, but this building didn't cost me $800,000. I've already paid you $750. Let me just keep this $50. It's like, no. Like, you'd be surprised how many people are like, I look at it as like, you're multi-millionaire. What are you trying to do? Trying to keep $50,000 from me? Like, come on, pay me my money. Like, I don't go into your business and treat you that way. But that happens with commercial properties, especially like HOAs. You're dealing with a lot of people. You're always going to have that treasurer or that person or that somebody like, do we really need to pay them that last check? It happens probably more often with commercial roofing, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, man, hey, I'll be honest. We could probably talk forever, but I'm gonna bring it into the next segment because I'm sure we'll get back on it. We'll probably do another episode at some point, if I had to guess. So, the next thing we'll be doing is playing a little game. It's gonna be Are You Smarter Than a Roofer? So I'm gonna ask you 5 trivia questions.
Oh, man.
Some are roofing related, and others are just based off of you and things you like or things that you do. The first one is what was the last year the Cowboys won a Super Bowl? Was it A, 2001, B, 1996, C, 1987, or D, 2007?
Okay.
There it is. Love it.
Yeah. I'm going to go with E and say 2023, baby.
20? Oh, my God. Get this guy out of here.
We're going to the bowl, baby.
They're so annoying. They're so annoying. All the Cowboy fans over here. No, I'm just, well, what's your answer? What's your answer? What you got? Do you know?
Oh, it was I wasn't even listening. It was the 90s. It was, what'd you say, 96 or
96? Yep, that's correct. Nice work. All right. What percentage of marketers who use video say it's an important part of their marketing strategy? Is it A, 25%, B, 55%, C, 92%, or D, 78%?
First of all stats are made up, right? There's some stat out there that says like 90% of statistics are completely made up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a big stats guy for that reason.
You see this guy? This guy's gonna have something. This guy's gonna have something to say about all the questions over here. He's like, all right, what's the stat? Yeah, all of them, of course, exactly. I'm gonna put you on a time. I'm gonna put you on a time limit over here.
Man, haven't you seen Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Like, it's all about the story in between the questions. That's like, put me on.
That's right.
Like,
well, hey, this is my second. This is only my second recording, so I'm still learning the whole game host thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's my first time with the game show thing.
The game host.
Yeah.
Well, here it is. Let me tell my story. Right?
Yeah.
The answer is, the final answer is 72%. 72%. 76%. Something like that.
92%. 92% of people who use video. Right?
Okay.
92%. 92%.
92%. Okay, so I'm getting it mixed up, but it's 76% of marketers wish they use more video. That's my stat, right? You're saying 92% of marketers recommend using video.
Can I just 8%?
Quit your job.
Hey! So you need to be quiet. So my whole goal with the marketing stat here for the video marketing was to show people how important video marketing is, so they give Alan Mick a call. And I try to find the highest stat possible over here, and he's giving me a hard time. You see this guy? Yeah. You see this guy?
I am.
Yeah.
Oh man!
All right,
next one. I got this. Right.
All right. So, how much revenue did the largest roofing company on the Roofing Top 100 list do in revenue last year? Is it A, $814 million, B, $538 million, C, $1.1 billion, or D, $350 million?
Tough question because it's Cinemark. It's always Cinemark. Man, I know they do over $1 billion if you take into account their flooring division.
I think this one's no flooring. I think this one's no flooring.
There's no flooring. Then it's that $800 million figure.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
I thought it was 763, but
that is correct. Yeah. That is correct. All right. So we met at the Hail Trace Go-Kart charity event for roofers in recovery in Oklahoma. What is the capital of Oklahoma? Is it A, Norman, B, Tulsa, C, Edmond, or D, Oklahoma City?
Yeah, I would say Oklahoma City, and I'm just guessing. It's that. I mean, it just seems obvious. It's the biggest city, right? It's called Oklahoma City. Right? Hey, Oklahomans, Brandon, Derek Klein, you're really dumb if the capital's not Oklahoma City. Right? it should be the capital. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma City. Let's do it.
That is correct. Great work. All right.
Yeah.
So we got our final question. All right. So the final question is so now you live in Dallas, all right? What is the new tourism slogan for Dallas? Is it A, be free in the big D? Is it B, live large, think big? Is it C, everything is bigger in Dallas? Or D, live the big dream?
Whew, that's a tough one. I got no idea. I never heard of this. I'm more of a Fort Worth guy personally. I'm gonna say live them big dreams, man. Keep dreaming. Live them big dreams. Let's go D for Dallas.
So what's great about this answer is I researched this question online, right? And there was only three answers, so I had to make one up. So the one I made up was live the big dream. So that is
the one I picked.
Yeah. So that is incorrect. But the right answer is B, live large and think big. Great job. You're going to get some kind of prize. Like I said on the first episode, this is brand new, so we don't know what you're going to get yet. But the girls in our office are working on a custom prize of some sort, so that will be coming your way. Great job. Awesome stuff. The last segment, I don't know if you saw this in the email. If not, no big deal. Hopefully you're good on your feet. But this is the end with enlightenment, all right? So this could be a quote. It could be a life lesson. It could be a book suggestion of some sort, something that you think could have a positive impact for those out there.
Yeah. The book is super important. I highly recommend audiobooks for people that don't read. So I think that's important, but it wouldn't be a book recommendation, more of a quote. And I've changed this since we started talking. I think it'll align with what we said is, guys, don't let anybody tell you can't, right? Don't ever let anybody tell you can't. And everything out there is easy as long as you try. Mm-hmm. That was always my biggest thing in roofing. I would never give these speeches, these sales meetings and say, let's go out and work hard. No, just try. And that's all you got to do is try. And I promise you, it will end up coming easy if you put in that effort. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And when it doesn't work out, because it probably won't in the beginning, you probably have some issues, you probably have some hiccups. Don't get sad, right? Keep moving forward. Don't feel victimized or feel like a failure or say, "Oh, you idiot, you would mess this up. I told you not to do it." Right? Stay positive, right? Yep. Get a learning lesson out of it, build off of it, right? Because you don't have to be great to get started, but to be great, you got to get started. Right, so get your butt moving, get out there, make it happen. If you want some amazing video stuff, make sure you're hitting up Alan at Just Share Media. Alan, it's been a blast to have you on. I'm sure we'll have you again, so thank you so much.